Hello and welcome to this week's big match preview. I'm Scott from West Ham Fan TV. This week I'm going to be previewing the upcoming fixture against Crystal Palace. When we look at Crystal Palace's form, they're in awful form. You know, they've won 2 of their last 6, both coming in the FA Cup. They haven't won in the league in their last 13 matches. You know, their last victory was back in December the 19th, I do believe. You know, so their form at the moment is absolutely awful. On the contrary, West Ham's form is absolutely brilliant. You know, we've only lost 1 of our last 10. When you look at the last 6, we've won 4 of the last 6. And to be honest, if refereeing decisions had been spot on, we would have a perfect record, 6 wins out of 6 matches. You know, so we are on such a high at the minute. The place is buzzing, the team's buzzing, and we're, you know, everything's looking really good for West Ham at the moment. When we look at the head-to-head of the two teams, last time out, West Ham beat Crystal Palace 3-1 at Selhurst Park. Great game, we were there, the view weren't too good, you know, we couldn't see the top half of the pitch, but we discussed that back then as one of Palace's downfalls at their ground. So we, you know, won the game 3-1. Last time out at Upton Park, it was an exact reverse, you know, Palace turning us over 3-1. That was an awful game, you know, Palace was so much better than we were. You know, as head-to-head goes, West Ham have only won 3 of the last 10 matches against Palace. You know, it's not the greatest run of form, but it's still not too bad going into this game. Right, when we look at the team news leading into this game, West Ham are almost back to full fitness. You know, Sam Byron picked up a knock, still going to be out. Ginger Collins, even though he had a run out in the Mark Noble testimonial, isn't fully fit. He may make the bench, but I don't think with the amount of games we've got coming up, he'll be risk. James Tomkins should be back. You know, this is a massive boost for us. We've been without a right back. Antonio's had to fill in. You know, we've sort of played 3 at the back, so Tomkins coming back will strengthen our back 4. When we look at Palace, you know, their injury list has been awful, and they've sort of blamed this for their dip in form. You know, when you go back to West Ham's sort of dip in form when they had all their injuries, you know, I think we lost 2 games with all our injuries, so you can't really use it as an excuse. Yeah, it is, but, you know, we soldiered through it and we played really well during that period. You know, they're without Shamak and MacArthur, you know, 2 players picked up long-term injuries. Coming back possibly this week, they've got Connor Wickham, Jedinak, Cabaye and Adebayor. You know, for Palace to have them 4 players coming back, they're big players in their side. So they're you know, Cabaye, we know how good he is. Adebayor, if he wants to play, can be one of them forwards that causes you lots of problems. Moving into their danger men, if Cabaye's back, you know, he can pull the strings. He's their version of Payet, but Payet's obviously a lot better. You know, he's a different level compared to Cabaye, and, well, that's my opinion. I'm not really bothered if Palace don't agree, but, you know, Cabaye can pull the strings and can cause teams problems. You know, he's their top goal scorer with 6 goals. Doesn't say a lot really, because their second top goal scorer is Scott Down with 5. So I'm still picking Cabaye out as a danger man. The other players I'm looking for as danger men is Balassi and Punchin. You know, Punchin's not having the best of seasons this year, nor is Balassi, but they're still 2 dangerous players. Punchin's got the most assists for Palace with 4. You know, it does show where they're lacking. When you look at Connor Wickham, he's another good striker, full of work rate, but he's not got the greatest goal scoring record. I don't think he'll cause us a threat. Predict his starting lineup for West Ham. Obviously Adrian to carry on in goal. Creswell left, Ogbonna, Reid and Tomkins right back. Midfield, we're going to go Noble and Chiarte. Antonio, Payet and Lanzini is the attacking 3. Sitting up top on his own is Diafra Sakho. Sakho being back and being fully fit is amazing for us. My score prediction for this game, I'm going comfortable. I'm going a West Ham 3-1 win. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all over social media. At the moment we're running a massive, well, I think it's a huge competition. If you've got a child the age of 6 to 12 and you want him to be a mascot, check out our Twitter and our Facebook. Follow the instructions on there to be in a chance of winning that opportunity. One thing left to say, come on your irons.